For Emma, the onset of her depression was not tied to a single event. Her symptoms unfolded early, beginning at age 11.
I started feeling kind of lonely and just separate from the other kids. I thought all my friends were feeling the same way, that it was just kind of a part of life and that I was just weak because I couldn't deal with it.
The onset of clinical depression most typically presents itself between the ages of 15 to 34. But the disease is often missed in adolescence because it can be mistaken for normal teenage behavior.
I mean, they talk about on those depression surveys, have you lost interest in things you used to enjoy? And I never really understood that because I didn't remember ever enjoying anything. It's like, you know, the Dementors in Harry Potter, how they kind of suck all the happiness out of you. They suck all your good memories. It's like the world goes cold.
When we're talking about clinical depression, we mean depression that goes on for several weeks, in which the symptoms happen almost every single day. So what are these symptoms? There's feeling sad and blue, feeling guilty, feeling hopeless and helpless, having problems of sleeping and eating, and feeling life is just not worth living.
You imagine as a parent that it would never happen to your kid. Here we are, an intact family, no divorce, no history of depression.
Emma masked behavior she herself did not understand.
I don't know how much I necessarily, lied to them, before things started getting really bad. I just wasn't completely honest. I started getting depressed in, 5th grade, and I didn't say anything until I was about to be a sophomore in high school.
The signs that you would look for, like doing bad in school or being isolated, the stuff you would read in a textbook, we didn't see anything like that. It was just, on the surface, everything was doing great. And then it was like a meteorite just smashed into our house.
I was really good at playing the role that I felt like I was supposed to play.
So that's the trap I think parents can fall into, which is we have such high expectations of our kids. The kids meet those expectations outwardly, even while they're crumbling inwardly.
As time went on, Emma's symptoms escalated. To the outside world, she was just a teenager acting out.
I started drinking. That kind of got a little bit out of hand. My friends told me that I was drinking too much, and they told me to try to stop drinking. And I found that it wasn't easy to stop drinking, so I started smoking pot a lot. And I was gonna take a bottle of Tylenol and slit my wrists or something along those lines. But instead, I was like, no, you have to do something about this. And I basically went downstairs and told my dad, I was just like, I want to kill myself. And he was kind of trying to talk to me well, what's going on? Why do you feel so sad? And I just started screaming and crying, and I just fell over onto the floor, and he picked me up, kind of holding me up so I wouldn't drag on the floor, and was like, what did you take? What did you take? And I was like, I didn't take anything. This is me sober. He still thinks I was high that night when we talked, but I was just so horribly depressed.
This was a turning point. Emma's parents sought psychiatric help, supported by medication. When those therapies failed, they resorted to inpatient hospitalization.
While I was in treatment, I was mad at the counselors for something, and I was screaming and, throwing a temper tantrum on the floor. And the staff, dragged me into the living room, and I tried to strangle myself with my sweatshirt cords. And the staff had me to hold for, the rest of the night, and I attacked several staff members. And I don't really even remember it.
When treatment at the local hospital failed, the family felt they had no other recourse but to send Emma away to a specialized residential facility.
I think the hardest part was when we were just kind of hitting a wall, and Emma had been hospitalized several times, coming to the conclusion that we had to look at other options, and we spent some time working with a national educational consultant looking at different residential programs. And for a parent, that was one of the hardest things imaginable, to think that the person you love so much and that you were so devoted to was someone that you could not really care for anymore.
And to send her away when she was ill, that was the worst thing, to drop your child off in another state when you think her life is in danger, and to drive away is nearly impossible to do. It was, but we also felt like it was the only chance we had left. We had tried everything else.
Unlike Emma, some cases of depression can be so severe that they're impossible to miss. Hart Lipton's world began to close in on him in 6th grade.
For me, it was going to sleep, just locking myself in my room. I just felt like there was no escape, just like a black hole. Like once you come in there, you just can't come back out, just blackness.
In time, Hart's depression spiraled even deeper. Although he was under the close watch of his parents, he became afraid that he might end his life and asked to be taken to a hospital.
My husband made a surreally slow motion trip to a hospital, following the ambulance that was carrying him. The lights were quietly flashing, but there was no siren. My perfect child seemed to want to sacrifice himself.
I brought these 2 kids into the world, and for one of them to not enjoy life, to be tired of life itself, and to not want to participate in life, is there nothing else even matters. It's the saddest thing that I could ever hear.
Hart Lipton suffers from bipolar illness, a disorder related to depression or unipolar depression. Bipolar illness manifests itself in a variety of ways and is characterized by moods which can swing dramatically between depression and euphoria or between depression and a more intense irritable state.
Bipolar disorder is one of the most heritable psychiatric illnesses. And in fact, bipolar disorder is what we call more heritable than is unipolar depression, okay? So the genetic part of bipolar disorder is particularly strong.
Multiple conflicting symptoms in Hart made his diagnosis especially challenging. He displayed signs of attention deficit disorder, which his doctor suggested might be contributing to his depression.
Teenage and adolescent behaviors are complex and scary and defiant, but there was a point in which we had to accept that he was really starting to be in pain.
Hart began therapy and was put on an antidepressant. He was also given medication for attention deficit disorder, which made his depression worse and was discontinued. Hart, seeking relief, turned to cutting.
You can see my wrists, they've been cut too. I tried it. Some people get a kick out of it. Hurting yourself, you feel this pain and you don't feel this pain so much.
By 9th grade, Hart's self-destructive behaviors forced his parents to monitor his every move.
They just have to be kept safe, and you have to take away anything that could be used to hurt themselves. Knives, medicine, all those kinds of things. And I think, in a way, it feels very regressive, almost like you're never going to have your independence again.
You would sit, like all day, you would just be wondering, are you going to hear from him that he's suicidal that day? Is he actually, talk to your son about, is he feeling like hurting himself?
The Lipton family put their life on hold, watching and waiting. They knew the threat of adolescent suicide was very real.